Hey, welcome to the Hell Has an Exit podcast. I'm your host, Brian Alzate. This show is not affiliated with any specific 12-step program. If you or a loved one is struggling with an addiction, please find a local 12-step meeting. If you believe you may need detox or drug treatment of any kind, please call 833-999-1877 to speak to a specialist. The show is sponsored by United Recovery Project, a state-of-the-art drug and alcohol rehab facility. You can visit our website at unitedrecoveryproject.com.
Welcome to Hell Has an Exit with host Brian Alzate. This is episode 90. This is a two-part episode with special guest star Lillo Brancato Jr., the young actor and star of A Bronx Tale. This episode is part 2. If you missed part 1, you can go back and listen to episode 89 for part 1 of the story, following Lillo's incredible journey through addiction and into recovery. And now let's join Brian and his guest star Lillo Brancato Jr. for part 2 of the episode.
It is some kind of supernatural phenomenon.
Some people call it the devil. Some people call it the disease. Like, I don't get hung up over what people call it, but I will say that if I don't want to get high and I get high, then who wants to get high? Something else.
Right.
So in recovery, a 12-step program, what made sense for me is somebody, when I used to say I want to get high, my sponsor would say, you don't want to get high, your disease wants you to get high. That's when I started to realize that I did have accountability and I was able to make a choice.
That's a good one. You don't want to get high, your disease wants you to get high.
Because I would be like, bro, if I want to get high, I'm just going to get high. And he would say, Brian doesn't want to get high. Brian doesn't want to ruin his life. Brian actually wants to live a normal life, and you don't even enjoy being high. Your disease tricks you and talks to you in your own voice. And that's when I started to understand the disease concept. Religion does this in its own way. 12-step programs do this in their own way. The doctor tells you this in your own way. So everyone has their own little, how they want to decorate the box. But we're all talking about the same shit.
I like the way you said that.
I believe addicts don't want to use. So when I see people that are like, oh, you're never going to help my kid, I'm like, bro, let me tell you something. I can look at your kid and tell you that he doesn't want to be dope sick.
It's, what's so nuts? It's like almost a form of possession. Mm-hmm. It's almost like you're possessed.
It's
like an out of body experience. Mm-hmm. It's like you go into something else. You slip into something else.
I can look you dead in the face, pass a lie detector test, tell you I'm not going to use, but as soon as I'm alone, I'm like, we got him. But it's like, what is that?
Or, no, I think it's even deeper than that. I think when you did have the lie detector test, I think you honestly thought you weren't going to use.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I can pass the lie detector test.
I really not going to use. And anything that, I know this can, but like once you're there, it's like now you have that out-of-body experience. Mm-hmm. You slip out of you into whatever.
Yeah, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
Yeah, it's sick, man.
And a lot of times it's in my environment. It's like, I don't want to eat pizza until I'm at a fucking pizza place.
Right.
So it's like, right now, I'm not really craving pizza. But you leave a pizza in here and you say, hey, Brian, I'll be back in an hour. It's the same thing. It's that, my environment is 50% of what my thoughts are. Right. And I think that half of getting clean is just not putting yourself in a dumbass position.
You're right.
But when you're using, you don't even know that getting into the car with everyone who's going to go and get high is that dumb. You're like, well, those are just my friends. They're going to get high, but I'm not going to get high.
Right.
How was it dealing with staying out of those situations when you got clean?
I give you a lot more credit in getting clean than I even give myself, because you were able to do it out here. Where you said
brother, there's so much drugs in prison.
Nah, but not like out here.
Not like that?
No.
Okay.
Just like I was saying with the crack, I knew not to smoke it because it's like, where am I going to go get more? And I know how that shit goes. It lasts for like 35 seconds of pure like euphoria. And then that same euphoria that you experience in such a short amount of time goes away even faster. And your body crashes and it's like,
you feel
whoa.
worse. You're just praying that you didn't smoke the crack.
Right, I'm just like, give me some dope because I know that'll last a few days. Mm-hmm. Especially I'm not doing it every day. It's so strong.
Yeah.
3 days later, you'll still be nodding out and you'll still be itching. Like, wow, this shit is great.
Yeah, people don't understand that the itching is actually a good thing.
The itching is the best feeling in the world. You'll itch to the bone. You'll itch your skull to the bone, but you still think it feels good. You have chunks of meat in your fingertips. Wow.
I remember itching my ankle, and I remember I was like half asleep, and I'm like, why is my ankle wet?
You believe it?
I was like, is that water? And like I couldn't look, and I looked the next day, blood all over.
Yeah, of course.
What I always tell people, like opiates is like this high that you don't have any issues with anything going out. It's like someone could be like, hey, Brian, you got to go paint that fence in 100-degree weather. I'm like, you're crazy. Oh, here's 2 Oxycontins. Okay. It makes everything bearable.
You're right.
You have the time of your life. You know, my friend used to say,
I used to pet my friend's dog. My friend Nick, every Friday night, he had a brindle pit bull. I used to pet his dog on the couch. It was a pit bull with a muscular head. I literally used to massage the muscles in the dog's head. This was like, who's got it better than me? It was the best Friday night in the world. Whack that on my shit. Take it like that.
Yeah.
And this was the early days.
Dreaming.
Where I could sniff one bag and be rocked for like 3 days. Like, whoa.
Mumbling to yourself in a dream.
Burning everything up if you're smoking.
Yeah.
You know?
Holes in on your pants. Let me ask you, when people ask you about that night that changed your life forever, do you think of it now as, do you feel like you're tired of talking about it? Do you feel like it's just a shitty fucking thing? Because I do sense that you have so much genuine remorse from what happened that night. But at the same time, like, you know, I'm not an attorney or anything, but like when I looked at the case and reviewed everything, I believe your sentence is unfair. And I do believe that it's such a shitty situation that even though it's unfair, that's the reality of life right now, is that, you know, hey, when something happens to certain people, you get a worse. You know, if you go rob a fucking judge, you're going to get more time than if you rob a fucking crack dealer, right?
Yeah.
So it's like there are things that get taken into consideration.
Different circumstances. You know, I mean, this was a cop, so this is like, you know, a heroic police officer that lost his life, and I never want to minimize any of that, and my heart and praise always go out to him, his family. You know what I mean? And I wish, you know, there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about that night and what happened and how I wish I could change it. You know what I mean? But I think I did a pretty good job in turning my life around devoting a lot of my time to like helping other people. But to this day, like, you know, so many members of law enforcement on various social media platforms, just the negative things they say to me. And it's like you lose so much credibility as a person and just as a group. When you do stuff like that, you want to say like you're like, listen, what's done is done. You know, I didn't kill anyone. And I've like used this situation to like, you know, like help other people. You're here to protect and serve the community. And when you like let a person like me come to certain places and speak to kids and you like embrace that, you're actually serving the community and you're protecting them from things that could happen. Like, look at this guy. He went through it. Now he wants to share his experience with you. You should be all for that kind of stuff.
That's what incarceration is supposed to be about.
Know, but this is like why it's like logically it doesn't make sense.
Because let me ask you something. How many people you went to prison with changed their life? Not a lot.
No, the rate of recidivism is very high.
It's insane. So it's like the system we have is not working. You really are going uphill when you change your life after you've been in the system, and it makes it even harder because sometimes I talk to people and they're like, I don't understand, why can't these people just get jobs? Like, good luck getting a job if you're a felon.
Right.
Good luck renting a fucking house.
You can't do anything. You can rent a basement apartment somewhere if you're lucky until they find out who you are.
Exactly.
Especially now, you have access to the internet in 2 seconds. Who's this guy? Let me Google him. Let me see if oh my God, I didn't know he went to prison for 8 years.
Oh, I'm not letting him.
I'm lucky because, people knew who I was before. And like, don't get me wrong, not everybody. Some people don't give a shit who I was or whatever. They look at me as a perp. Like, you're a perp. I don't give a fuck what movies you were in. You're a convicted criminal and that's the way you're going to be treated. And then a lot of people like, you know what? Because I was in certain films and stuff like that.
You know what's so crazy? Sorry to cut you off.
No, it's all right.
Before I really did research, I just thought that you were someone who pulled the trigger because that's the way the media portrays it.
Yeah.
And it's like cop killer. And when you think about, how fucked up the media is, it's like the way that story came out has affected your life negatively. And I'm not saying that other people weren't harmed and it's not a fucked up thing that happened. The way that I have the story now is that you went to go visit your friend who was a Vietnam War veteran. You've known this guy for years. You thought the guy still lived there. He wasn't answering. You did break a window, but you never went inside. And you were just trying to probably get pills because this guy probably had pills.
He was my friend from back. I knew the guy. And I would go in his house.
Yeah, you'd
in
go
the middle
inside
of the night.
Or whatever. And if you broke his window, he probably wouldn't even get mad.
No,
He'd
he
be
would
like,
say,
oh,
what the hell?
Fuck?
Exactly.
Yeah, what the fuck?
hell?
You broke my window?
Yeah. But that's what addicts do.
Yeah.
Come on, you're going to tell me If you needed money in the middle of the night, you wouldn't break your friend's window if he's friggin' not answering the door?
This one time I was so dope sick,
people do that.
I drove 4 hours and started throwing rocks in my friend's window, and I could have broken a window, but it's like, bro, when you want to get high and they're not answering, that's normal behavior.
Yeah, and you're right. Like, they need to make things much more, like, they need to make things clearer as to who really, because you know what? I had, someone, the manager of mine, we don't, he doesn't represent me anymore, but he's a great guy. But I remember him telling me one time that it was even hard for me to get a book deal. He said, because these publishers, they think you pulled the trigger, where I have to. Well, then I said, well, it's your job to make these people know that I didn't pull the trigger, that I was just there. No criminal record prior to that night. I don't even remember
reading about it. I don't even know how I saw it. But in my mind, I just believed, oh, yeah, Lillo from Bronx killed a cop. And that's why he went to prison. But now he's doing really good. I had no idea. And that's why, the podcast is important to get the real story out.
Right.
That's why doing these things is important. And I think that, the more and more you do and the more you change other people's lives and impact people, like now you're really just viewed as somebody who helps people, that's changed your life, a redemption story. Like when you think about redemption stories, you're up there, bro.
Yeah, no, I hear you, but you know what?
It's not like you had a few bad years. Like to take your life from where it was to where it went to where it is now is an amazing feat.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, but still to this day, even like right around Memorial Day this past year, I literally drove back because my flight was Friday, and then Sunday I had something, there was going to be these vendors, and it was like a signing and this whole thing in Staten Island, and this one kid, I'm so mad I don't remember his name because I would love to mention it, but this kid was such a clown. He books me, and then this other kid, Jeremy, he's like, he does autographs. He's like probably the biggest bum I ever met in my life. This guy books me. They book me, and everything is cool. But then they saw the consensus because Staten Island's a very pro-cop borough.
Yeah.
So now, like, I guess obviously they have to advertise that I'm going to be there and this and that. So it was met with so much resistance.
Wow.
Cop killer, piece of shit, you perp, you scumbag. And then these two pieces of shit that booked me, they turned on me also. I was supposed to be there Sunday. I had a flight leaving Florida because I'm a man of my word. I literally, because there's so many like flights from Florida to New York get canceled all the time now. So I didn't want to take a chance because booked it. I drove home, bro. I rented a car and drove home to be there for these clowns. And then they want to talk, and then they like turn it around on me. This is what I deal with, bro. This is what I deal with on a daily basis. And I've taken full responsibility. It's not like, listen, I didn't do it. I was there because I loved the guy's daughter.
Exactly.
I just wanted to be with him so I'd have a reason to talk to her. Like I said, I was there. I know my drug addiction put me in that particular place at that particular time. So I definitely take full responsibility for how I contributed to that. But, this many years later, to still be spoken to like that, after I've done so much to like make an impact in other people's lives, especially ones that have had a similar journey as I have, to like do that, and these people still want to do this. It's like you lose credibility to me. How good are you when you're talking about a guy who's actually trying? It's not like I'm out there getting DWIs and still committing crimes.
Or doing fraud or
right, if you
bullshit.
want to talk to me then like that, then it's like, oh, you're a piece of shit. You should have stayed where they should have kept you there. But it's like when you say that, it's like, dude, I'm really trying. Not just that. And none of us are perfect.
You did a crime and you served time for that crime. Why is it an issue? You know what I mean?
I guess a lot of these people just have nothing better to do.
Of course.
So I wish I knew the name of this collectibles place because I really want to put this kid on blast. Such a clown. He put on his page, Lillo is canceled. 3 days ago, you were my best friend talking about this and that. And just goes to show you have no backbone, no integrity, where you should have been a man and said, listen, the reason why I hired this guy to begin with is because I respect what he's doing with his life.
Of course.
And I want more people to see that and to hear his story because it'll inspire them to know that this can actually happen. Instead of us just sitting here blind and then you got this kid being judged by members of law enforcement that don't know shit about what he went through.
And probably most of the cops don't even know the whole story either themselves.
Yeah, but let's see when one of their kids get addicted to drugs.
Exactly.
And then they'll say, oh, you know what? I should have been a little nicer to that kid because now I know what he went through and what his parents went through.
I deal with it all the time with sober livings that we own and stuff like that. It's like people are like, oh, I don't want that in my neighborhood. Oh, halfway houses don't belong in neighborhoods.
Oh, you own the houses like that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
I remember being
so smart, man.
Thank you. So I remember being like, dude, where the fuck are they supposed to be?
My cousin.
Oh, not here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, when your kid becomes a drug addict, you tell me
Trust
how
me.
you feel about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I guarantee you, because we have nice houses in nice neighborhoods, and people are like, they don't belong here. I was like, where do they belong?
Exactly.
This is giving them a fighting chance.
This is inspiring
And
them.
it's like, do you think they're these like homeless people with like fucking bed bugs and shit? Like,
It's all about empathy, brother. If they don't have it.
Yeah, we take people from all over the country. You know, people with jobs, lawyers, doctors, all walks of life get clean. And you know what? Once they get clean, they're probably a better human being than most of us.
I really like that idea. That's smart.
Absolutely.
Somebody mentioned something like that to me recently about sober living homes and stuff like that. And you're absolutely right.
Because most of them are in the hood, they're ran down, they're
but
gross.
You're able to put your money into a place which will better accommodate addicts
course.
in their recovery.
Yeah.
And it's like
And get them jobs.
the smoother,
the transition.
right? The better they have a fighting chance to like really do this forever.
Course, yeah.
You know what I mean?
And bro, you get people out of prison, and it's like, it blows my mind that they haven't thought of ways to rehabilitate people back into society, because they really just drop you off at 3 a.m. and tell you to figure it out.
Yeah, with like whatever few bucks they give you.
Most people are committing crimes within a couple of hours because they don't have any other resources. I believe most people commit crimes because they're in a fucking desperate ass situation. And I think the other half of them need to be on meds. And that's basically it, you know?
Well, some people, some people just like the rush, brother.
Yeah.
Some people are action junkies.
Some people are criminals.
Yeah.
You know, like...
They're criminal mind. They get the...
Yeah.
Like
they're addicted to breaking the law is thrilling and exciting to
the
them.
action.
Yeah.
Do you remember the movie Heat?
Of course, you can feel the heat.
Yeah, but remember with De Niro, remember with Tom Sizemore? Remember when they were in the parking lot?
Yeah.
And they were talking about taking the bank down? And De Niro was like trying to talk him out of it. Remember he goes, I remember what his wife's name was. He's like, so-and-so, your wife's, she's got this much money in barrel bonds and this. He said, all the money. He says, I think you should pass. And then he says, I roll with you, Neil, whatever you want. And then he thought about it. And he said, well, you see, for me, the action is the juice. I don't give a shit about the money.
Yeah.
I want the action, and that's what it is.
Of course. And honestly, I think there should be like a 12-step program for fucking people who have that criminal addiction. Because it's like, like I think about my drug dealer, not for nothing, bro. I really have a good relationship with that guy. Like
To this day?
He's changed his life. You know,
he don't sell drugs anymore.
He don't sell drugs anymore. But I've seen him try to stop selling drugs for years. He would be like, bro, it's so hard, because he lives in the hood. He's been selling crack and heroin for 15, 20 years. He's never been arrested. And it's like, what does he do now? You know what I mean? And it's so hard for him to stop. Dude, when you go from making $3,000 a day, making $300 a week is tough. And it's not that he's not trying. You got to understand, like, his family sold dope. And it's not an excuse. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying, when you live in a neighborhood where everyone's lawyers and doctors, you start thinking about becoming a lawyer and a doctor. When you live in a neighborhood where everyone sells dope and crack.
Or does it. You see there's a market for it.
You see there's a market for it.
And then opening.
You don't see anybody doing anything else.
Right.
For me, it's like, I couldn't tell this guy to go to rehab. But he needed some type of structure. He needed something to do or somewhere to go so he can have like-minded people. Like, at least we can meet other addicts. There's not a lot of ex-crack dealers hanging out trying to change their life.
Yeah, I know, like meetings for like...
Yeah, or even a place. I mean, I guess there's like some stuff for them, but I've seen a lot of people struggle with the lifestyle just as much as they struggle with the drugs.
Yeah, well, that's a hand in hand. Nothing's going to ever bring the cop back, but like I said, Daniel Enchautegui was a heroic police officer who lost his life, off duty, not in the line of duty, off duty, which is even more commendable in a way because he put himself out there in a situation when he wasn't on the clock.
And I'm not trying to say anything bad, but it's like if he would have stated that he was a police officer and people knew that he was a police officer, I think it would have ended differently. In Florida, it's like, bro, when someone has a gun, you don't know what the fuck is going on. So I don't even think, I think maybe your friend shouldn't have had a gun if he didn't have the right to have it. But at the same time, it's like he didn't know what was going on either.
Well, it's just like, man, it was like one of those things, a second to get into trouble and a lifetime to get out of it. Everything happened so fast. Like, boom, 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 boom. It's done. Okay. And then that, he died. These guys were shot. Everyone's life changed within the matter of not even 10 seconds.
And you got shot 3 times.
2.5. I got grazed. Yeah.
Grazed? Wow.
Yeah.
And was it a 9mm?
It was a 9mm. It was off duty. It was a Car 9.
Wow.
9mm, yeah.
And how was that surgery?
Well, I was out for it, so I don't even really remember. But I did lose part of my colon. Wow. I lost my spleen. I had a collapsed lung, and this was all after, unarmed.
Yeah.
I didn't have a gun.
Exactly.
And all this harm and all this bodily harm was inflicted. And, you know, basically because I'm a drug addict. So you shot me because I'm a drug addict. That's basically, but nobody sees that side of the story. That's what started everything. You don't shoot that gun first, maybe none of that other stuff happens.
And I understand that, you know, you had your back turned. He had his gun on you. He said, don't move. And instinctually, when someone says that, you're like, who's fucking back there? You know what I mean?
I don't think there's any person on the earth that wouldn't have moved when that happened.
No.
On crack cocaine at 5:30 in the morning, when in your mind...
Stone cold sober. Because I don't know. He didn't say, I have a gun to your back. And just, your body just doesn't, when someone talks to you from your back, you want to know who's talking to you.
You're absolutely right.
You're just instinctively going to turn around to see who, like, to have a conversation with someone. You're not going to just leave your back turned to them. It's a weird thing to ask someone to do. And I'm not saying that he should have done this or whatever. It's a fucked up situation. You know, it's a fucked up situation, and it's horrible for everyone involved. What was Rikers Island like? You were there for 8 years?
No. I was there for 3 years. 3. And then that was jail. That was New York City jail.
And then you got sentenced.
And then when I got sentenced to 10 years, and I would do 8.5, because that's 85% of a violent crime, I went upstate New York, and then there was prison. But Rikers Island, it's got to be like, it's, you know, like the only way to really describe it is like hell on earth. You're not safe in that place. You know, like People
are getting stabbed and shit in there?
Oh, stabbed. You know, like it's stabbed. That's nothing. I mean, you get people stomped to death. People die there all the time.
Like, when you say all the time, like once a month?
I mean, maybe not once a month, but maybe once every few months. Like, people die there every year. Okay? And stuff that definitely could have been avoided. Rikers Island is filled with police corruption. You know, the 3 main functions of a corrections officer is care, custody, and control. Not all of them. You have, you know, you got good and bad.
A couple COs that are good.
Everything. But you know what it is? Rikers Island is such a corrupt place. And, you know, like these COs that, you know, work there and maybe have the intention on being a good corrections officer and, you know, doing things by the book. But once they're there and they see how easy it is to, like, bring in, like, pouches of tobacco that they buy for $5 and then they sell for $50, it's like, okay, I spent $25 and I just made $200.
Exactly.
It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. Then, you know.
What are you going to do?
Or you can go buy a pack of, they sell packs of cigarettes for $100.
It's crazy.
So even if you're buying a pack for $12, you go buy, you know, whatever.
And the COs are bringing it in and selling for $100?
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe they're giving it to a certain inmate that they trust.
Or they're allowing it to get in and getting broken off.
Right.
Probably.
It's both.
Both, yeah.
It's both. And, you know, like, you got COs also that are gang members, like they're Bloods and Crips. So it's like they grew up with the same guys that are in the cell block. So that's like, we're from the same housing project. Of course, I'm going to, like, you want this, like, or that, say somebody thinks he's going to go tell the CO, like, yo, man, these guys are pushing up on me and stuff like that. Meanwhile, you just told the CO and he's friends with these guys.
Wow.
So he's going to tell them, this guy just told me this about you and he wants to do this. So if you want to get him, let me know. I'm going to go to the bathroom. And I'll leave the thing
and I'll
alone.
let you do it.
Yeah, and then when I come back, you know, the guy's like half dead on the floor if he's not dead. His whole face ripped apart. It's a bad place.
You know, I've obviously had people in prison that are on the show, and it blew my mind that so many COs are gang members themselves. Like, my buddy used to tell me that they would have a female CO, and when she would come on property, she'd be like, yo, what up? Where my Latin queens and kings at? What?
Yes.
It's like mind-blowing. Like, because they're not just like gang members that are at work. They're repping their gang at work.
Yeah, right. So think about the special treatment that those other gang members are going to get. It's not even, I don't want to use the word unfair, like, you know, like bully type stuff with other inmates, but it's like, if you're not part of a certain crew in there, you're going to get preyed on.
Did people in there fuck with you knowing that you were a child actor star?
You know, I got to be honest with you, I didn't really get fucked with in Rikers Island or upstate. I think maybe because of the case. You know what I mean? It was a cop
Pretty
case.
high-profile case.
Well, not even that, because, like, in jail, people, like, you know, don't like cops. They fucking hate cops. You came here as the best thing you could have possibly came here for.
Wow.
Murder's good. Robbery's good. You know, burglary, those things are good.
But if you killed a cop in prison, they're like...
That's the best thing. And the worst thing is you're a kid toucher, piece of shit kid toucher,
chomo.
or a rapo. Those are like the bottom of the barrel, you know, guys, the pieces of shit. It's a whole different mentality in there. It's like the things that don't mean anything out here mean
something
everything in there. The violence, you know, just that.
What's probably the most violent thing you've seen in there?
Well, I seen a kid get stomped out like really, really bad till like the boy was in like a puddle of blood. He lived. I don't even know how he did. But it was 2006. It was like, I remember it was my Uncle Joe's 60th birthday. So it was right around May 11th of 2006. It was a Saturday. And I remember going to church. And that's why I used to get my morphine at church, because I was in NIC, North Infirmary Command. So
you would link up
yeah,
with
well,
your
these
boy
were guys
and
in the hospital, so they used to get it, and they used to hide it in their wheelchair.
Gotcha.
And then I used to send money orders or whatever. I used to meet up with them and, chew like 20 MS contents and be high. That Saturday, I remember I missed church, and I was so mad. On the Catholic service, they come, the escort, because they come down the elevator. They got guys already chained up, and they yell it. If you don't hear it, what do you think? They're going to make a special trip?
Yeah, they're not coming around for you.
You think they're making a special trip to bring you? Nah, bro, you missed it. Come see me. But they didn't know church for me was everything, because that's where I used to get my drugs.
Gotcha.
So that day, there was this kid, D and Ski, right? 3 new guys came to the house that day. And I remember this guy, D, his name is Simmons, right? This kid, he was the one who was on the receiving end. So we had this other guy, I don't even want to say, he's like the tough guy. He kind of ran the house. He was telling this kid, because this guy D was like the new kid in the house. He was like, basically telling him the rules. Like on whatever Monday night we watch Prison Break, we watch this show. This is another show we watch. The phones, they're pretty much blah, blah, blah. And then he says, and don't even go near the phone after 9 o'clock. Because he's basically saying that's when I use the phone.
Gotcha.
So the kid D looked at him like, what? Why can't I? He's like, because I told you. He's like, all right. I could see, I was started noticing the way everybody was walking and everybody was moving. This kid D was like a sitting duck in the TV room. And in Rikers Island, they got different colored chairs, but they're plastic, so guys don't kill each other with metal chairs.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because the chairs were yellow, red, and blue. So the Bloods would take the red, the Crips would take, and the yellow, the Latin Kings.
Oh my God.
Right, so it was
Get
like,
the fuck out
I swear to God, I got all these colors, right? So this guy D's in the TV room, and
this is a pod?
it was a cell block. It was a tier.
Cell block. Okay.
Tier, like cell. And then in the back, we had the TV
Day
room.
room.
Yeah, the table, and you get those plexiglass, so the CO could see through the glass.
Okay.
And I'm not going to mention this. She was real sweet. I'm not going to mention her name. But she was like the type that would wake us up and make sure that we ate.
Oh, what a
Older
sweetheart.
Jamaican lady.
Yeah.
She was such a sweetheart. And she was on a double that day. Okay, she usually works 3 to 11, but she was stepped in the daytime, so she was sleeping during the day to get ready for her regular shift. I knew that something was going to happen to this kid because I seen everybody, right? And too, in jail when there's going to be a fight, when people,
sense it.
well, not even that, when people put their sneakers on.
Okay, yeah.
So you grip the floor. You know what I mean? And sometimes people throw water on the floor too, so then you slip. You're at a disadvantage. They'll throw water your way and they got their sneakers on. You don't. You're a big disadvantage. So I seen the sneakers on and I seen this and that. So the guy D is just in the TV room. He's just sitting there. And everybody's in there. There's a couple young kids, a couple Crips. And next thing you know, boom, one chair went flying. And then everybody just like, boom, 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 boom,
Stomped
boom,
him.
boom, 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 boom. Like literally his head, I seen it boom, boom, boom on the friggin' the concrete floor.
Wow.
Bro, it was like literally bouncing like a basketball. It was stomping his head. Boom, boom, boom. It was going like that high. Boom. And the life was taken out of him. Because I saw his eyes in the beginning of like, you know what I mean? He was still there. And then he just went out. And I really thought he was dead. Because I seen after a few, there was just nothing left. His whole body was just loose. And he was just like, whoa. And he was like blood. And then everybody just dispersed like nothing happened. Everybody was in their cells like this.
Chilling, reading a book, reading the Bible.
Like, what happened? Yeah. No, it was on John verse 3. Philippians. What did you say happened?
Psalms.
Yeah, so like that goes on, right? The officer next door, because the cell blocks are adjacent, they're parallel, and in the middle you have the pipe chase where the pipes are. And from that mayhem in the back, he heard it from his side. So he came and woke the CO up.
She was sleeping.
Yeah, he was like, yo, so-and-so, what are you doing? He goes, they're killing each other back there. So now they open up this gate. This kid is on the floor in a puddle of his own blood, not responding. He was out. I thought.
You thought he was dead.
I thought he was dead. Yeah, I seen it was like, yeah, absolutely. It was like for like a minute straight of straight stomping. Even 10 seconds of stomping is a lot.
It's horrible, yeah.
Like a minute straight of stomping from all different angles. Like you guys trying to move, who's trying to, like guys are pushing each other out of the way just to stomp his head.
To get a running start.
Yeah, just to bang, just to move, just to get him. Yeah, it was very brutal. Yeah, that was a bad one.
Yeah.
I've seen, other stuff too. You know what it is? You Rikers Island is a nutty place, man. Like, you have what's called to an MO tier, mental observation. So you got like these like people
Crazy.
that, they're really crazy. Like, like, I hate to use that word crazy, but they're just.
They're mental health.
Yeah,
mental
they
health.
have
Very
mental health issues, Like, I remember one guy, because like different classifications, they can't mix you. You can't be in the same yard as that guy. Because if something happens, it's a lawsuit. We should have knew better.
Yeah.
This guy's, like takes medication and he's not stable. And I remember like, this is the type of people you deal with. Like, I remember this one dude, he called me, he was like, yo, right? He called me over and he was behind another fence because they couldn't mix us in the yard. So they had us on one side, I had him on one side. I didn't even know this guy. I did not even know this guy. And as I'm getting closer.
So you knew he wasn't supposed to be there?
No, he was supposed to be there.
Gotcha.
But he's on the other side.
Okay.
And I'm just like, can I help you with something, bro? Like, I don't even know this guy. You know what I mean? And he's like, yo. He was like, yo, right? And he was like, yo, right? I'm like, all right. So, like, I start walking toward him. And the closer I get, I could see just like a real soulless, like blank stare in his eye. And he's just like watching me get closer. And I'm like, yo, what's up, bro? And I'm on the other side of the fence. He put his head through the thing. And he kind of like grabbed me and tried to bang my head.
Wow.
Like, for no reason.
reason.
Like, this is what you deal with, like, it's just like insane.
Yeah, you hear crazy stories of people like filling their cell with feces and all sorts of crazy.
Oh, they throw it at COs. Yeah, like.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we used to have this one guy, Julio. He used to break a TV. He used to break it on his head. They used to have to put him on a helmet on him.
What?
Because he used to bang his head on everything.
Oh my God.
And you know what? It was big things. Remember that song by who was? I think it was Ja Rule. And all he used to do was go, holla, holla, right? And he was so nuts. Oh, I used that word again. I'm sorry. I don't mean any disrespect. But he was like out there. But one thing about this guy, he was awesome. Like, he was a gymnast.
Wow.
Yo, we'd see him run down the whole cell block and then boom, like a gymnast, like fly in the air. But then he'd be in his little cage because he was an MO. He was mental observation. The COs would have to walk down those cell blocks with like raincoats on because they're caged in and they got to walk down the catwalk to do the count. 1, 2, 3. And as these COs are going through, they're getting stuff thrown at them. Who's eating cereal out of the toilet bowl? There's shit everywhere. You could put a blindfold on somebody and you could find the MO tier just by the scent.
Wow.
The smell of piss, shit. It's like, this is a fucking nut house.
Wow.
Like, like to think, like, I was one day, like, sitting next to Robert De Niro making movies. Like, to like, experiencing shit in life that I should have been so blessed and just, like, I thought of it that way. And now I'm, like, in a place which is, like, my reality now, a place that smells like piss and shit. And you're fighting for your life in that place and in those circumstances, which it's like, you know what I mean? It really, really wakes you up, bro. And it just makes you think of how powerful drugs are and where they can bring your life.
Well, you didn't get clean until a couple years in, right?
After a year.
After a year. So, what I was saying is that, like, addiction really humbles people because it's like if you had an ego before drug addiction is going to rob you of everything you ever thought you could accomplish. And then it starts to go below that level to, like, you don't even think that it's possible.
Right.
Did you think at one point when you got sentenced to 10 years that, like, you're never coming out of this? Like, did you lose total hope?
No, when they sentenced me to 10 years, I was happy.
Wow,
because
you
I
were
knew
thinking
that
20.
Yeah, but I thought it was like going to be 25 to life.
Holy
and with
shit.
a cop, you go to the parole board, there's going to be people there. It's not like no one's showing up. There will be people showing up.
Especially in your case.
Right. So to make an example, like, yo, you want to kill a cop? This is what happens. We'll
20
keep
years.
coming. We'll be here 30 years from now saying, keep this piece of shit in jail.
Wow.
So, it's like, once they said 10 years, it's like, there's an end in sight, brother. I got a date now. July 1st, 2014.
Wow.
You could keep me after that. You can if I lose good time, but you can't keep me more than 10 years. Wow. I could lose all the good time in the world. If my sentence is 10 years, you cannot keep me till a day after that, unless I catch another charge, which I don't even know if that sentence that you catch from the new charge is going to be ran consecutive.
From that one.
So I don't even know, you know.
That's crazy because I would think that you would be like crazy upset, but you were like pretty happy about it.
Because I already did 3 in Rikers, so you're giving me 10. I got to go upstate and do 5.5 more.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
Wow.
I said 5.5 more. I said I'm still going to be in my 30s.
I tell clients they got to stay a week longer in treatment, they start crying.
Yeah. Bro, I was like 5 years.
Wow.
I'm going to still be in my 30s. I'm going to still be a young dude.
So you still felt like that? Like, dude, when I'm getting out, I'm still going to be young. I can do whatever the fuck I want.
Because I knew.
Where does that mentality come from?
Well, I knew. You know what I mean? It's like, because I didn't believe in God. I saw my little cousin Dina die, and I was just like really lacking faith. And maybe that was a big part of why I ended up where I ended up. But as things started happening, I started seeing the metamorphosis, the change in me. I started believing more and having more faith because I seen that it's real. You know what I'm saying? So it just like my way of thinking totally changed. Like I look at this as a sign. God throws signs out there all the time, right? But we got to recognize those signs. Something may happen, like where even somebody didn't pick up the phone where you were going to tell them to go fuck themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They didn't pick up because God didn't want you to say that.
Not that emotional, whatever.
Right, whatever, but
down,
just that's one little tiny example, but just anything. And then I just said, wow, this is what was supposed to happen. And I just started seeing myself get better. And also when I was in there, I went to school because I knew once people see, I'm doing this podcast, people would want to hear my side of the story. And I just thought it was in my best interest to go to school, learn how to speak. I think when people hear you speak well, there's a better chance for them to give you the benefit of the doubt. To say, maybe this guy didn't, you know what I mean? Maybe we were wrong about this guy. Maybe he was, at the wrong place at the right time, not the right. People say the wrong time. If it was the wrong time, you wouldn't have been there, right? You're at the right time, the wrong place at the right time. But yeah, so the moral, the whole story, what we spoke about today is don't do drugs.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
Don't do drugs.
Do you think that your life would have turned out totally different if you hadn't gotten arrested that day, or do you?
Yeah. I may not be here.
You probably would have died.
I was about a month away from sticking a needle in my arm, and then who the hell knows what would have happened.
What's crazy is that if you develop that addiction in today's time, I think you'd be dead in 3 to 5 years because you don't see people doing heroin for years anymore. Because with the fentanyl, people are dying left and right.
Bro, I don't even think 3 to 5 years. I've always said that. Yeah. I mean, because of the way we're wired and we're so nuts, I think we're going to look to make up for lost time. I think we won't even last a year, bro. Yeah. Especially now, you know what I'm saying? You're doing a little bit better financially and like,
we're dead.
The access. It's like, I tell people like I would be afraid to relapse today because my body's so clean. Like fentanyl will fuck you up, bro. A drop of it will kill you and your whole family. Yep. All right, it's serious stuff. And like when I got shot, they gave me fentanyl because I was snorting 20 bags a day. So I needed the strong shit. Fentanyl's like, 10 times stronger than morphine. And
morphine, elephants.
It's serious.
What's like one of your favorite stories from somebody that you've helped since you've been clean?
There's so many. I just see so many people achieve so many great things. Trying to find one that's more different. I mean, I guess they're pretty much all the same because it is what it is. I got this kid Devin. Kid Devin, Long Island. He lost it was his half brother Anthony. Like literally not even a year ago. He's been dead. He seems to be doing really well. I know him personally. I know his mom, so that's why that stuck with me a little bit more. This kid, I really, I really commend. Like I said, he just lost his brother, and that's so tough. He was over at More Life Recovery with us for a while. In the beginning, he wasn't really saying what was on his mind, and I think, and he did one time go back and did some Xanax. Yeah. Because, when you're an opiate and you do Xanax, you don't think it's a relapse. But it's still something to take you away from you. And I think once he started opening up, he became, a different person, had a whole different outlook. I mean, but there's so many. I could think of, like, on my way home, I'll be like, I should have mentioned this one. But that's the most rewarding part. Like, but listen, it goes both ways.
For sure.
It goes both ways. Because, like, I knew this guy, Primo, okay? And his sister reached out to me, and, she said, my brother Primo, and they're, like, right around 40, and they're twins. Her brother Primo, was heroin addict, and, he was like a bodybuilder type dude. And he liked the needle. He liked to shoot dope. And I did, him and his sister had a very complicated past with the dad and stuff like that. And I liked this guy. Like, he was a cool dude. Like, one time I, went out of my way to, like, reach out, not even talk about addiction, just because he was a cool dude. Like, he, like, knew how to work out, knew about nutrition. He liked rap music. He was like, we had a lot of similarities and a lot of things that, we liked in common. And, I really felt like I was reaching him and everything was cool. And his sister was like, oh my God, my brother called and was like, Lillo called. And she was like, yeah, that's what he does, Everything as far as we were concerned, we're going beautiful. I have it in my direct message. Lillo, I just wanted to reach out. My brother Primo died this morning. That happens too. It's like the quiet before the storm sometimes. You don't know, and then they just die, you know?
And a lot of times people will tell me like, oh, I don't understand. He was doing all the right things. Well, one of the main right things is not use.
Right.
So it's like a lot of times people are like, oh, I don't understand why they use it. It's like sometimes people just choose to act on that impulse. You know, we have 1,000 decisions you can make in an hour, and it's like, you make the wrong one. It's like you could end up getting in the
You can make 100 good ones, and it won't have the same impact as one bad one.
Exactly, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, I know for me, like dealing with addiction and recovery, it's like, man, I go to so many funerals, people I get close to, but at the same time, it's like, you know, I do see a lot of success stories. I always tell people, because they ask me, like, you know, is it hard going to all these funerals and stuff? But it's like, you know what? I've been to more weddings than funerals. I've seen more babies get born than funerals. In Florida, we got a crazy recovery community. We got a lot of young people, and, you know, it's good that people like you put your story out there.
Yeah, you know, like sometimes, like, I think Robert Downey Jr., I think he's a great actor. I think he's friggin' awesome. Charlie Chaplin, some of the stuff he did was so great. Who's been more of a success story than him, really?
Exactly.
But I just think that, you know, I just think he could
And
be...
he was a fucking... You seen that video where he talks about putting the shotgun in his mouth?
Yeah, I know, but I just think he could do a little bit more.
Addiction and recovery,
because you know what? I'm nobody compared to that guy. And I've impacted so many people's lives. That's Iron Man, bro. That guy's probably made over $1 billion from Avengers alone because of how many people saw it. You know how many people look up and admire that guy? I just think, in a way, it's almost selfish. It's almost selfish of him not to share that.
About it,
yeah, because he's probably told by the powers that be,
hey,
don't mention that. We don't want that.
Yeah.
But it's like, dude, this is a part of my journey because this character, you know, is received so well. It's because I am that guy.
Of course,
I'm like, you know, like the irony. Like I was a broken drug addict. Now I'm friggin' Iron Man because of my recovery. I should share that. It would inspire and give so many people hope. A guy like that would change so many people's lives. I think he's kind of selling out for the money.
Yeah.
I really do. I'm sorry. How else can you look at it?
Yeah.
You're Robert Downey Jr. There's nobody that's more of a success story than you when it comes to addiction and overcoming it than you.
Yeah.
And I just think you could do a little bit more, brother.
I've never really thought about it that way. And like, you know, I know people want their anonymity, but it's like, dude, when you're a celebrity, you kind of don't have
we know where you've been.
We know what the fuck
There's no
happened.
anonymity when it comes
It's
to
like,
you.
what?
Everybody knows who you are, where you've been, and this and that. And I think like sometime maybe you should just like put the movies to the side and, you know, be a human and say, you know what? I do have compassion and empathy for these people that are still sick and struggling. And maybe if I said the right things at the right time, I can prevent a lot of people from dying. And from going through, you know, and not only them, but their families.
It is crazy.
And I'm sorry for saying this. And I like people
it's true because
may
it's
hate
like,
me for it and like whoever, but it's like, it's true. It's like, how could you, like, listen, we're human, man, have a heart. Look what you have been given. You're so blessed. There's people that die every day from this, you know, from addiction. And you're like, not only overcame it, but you're more successful now than you were before, ever.
Yeah.
And you got to attribute that to your recovery and what you went through. And you have to let people know that that's possible and tell them what you did to get to where you are. And maybe they can learn from you. When you keep that, it's like selfish. You may have something, some secret or something that no one's ever thought of that you can share that makes all the difference. This little thing can make this big difference.
And it's not like he has to dedicate his whole life to it. It's like if he talks about it a little bit more, it'll make a huge difference. You know, and like for me, it's like hearing those stories. Like when Eminem got clean, we got clean around the same time. He has like a month more than me, or have a month more than him. It meant a lot to me being someone that listened to Eminem growing up, that he was really vocal about his recovery and did like a whole album about it. And I didn't need him to, but it felt good to know that not everyone who gets clean is going to, because I used to think getting clean was like a life sentence, you know, that it was like the end of the world.
No, it doesn't have to be, man. I just think, like I said, I think he's a great actor. I respect so much and everything what he's accomplished, but I just think that I would respect you more if you told some of these people, like, you know, some of these powers that be, like, hey, you know what? I take this really seriously. And I see people die from it all the time. And I just think it's my obligation, my responsibility to not dedicate maybe my whole life to it, because I know you've also done a lot for me, giving me another chance in coming back. But it's because I am this way now and because I've adhered to these certain principles that, you know what I mean? It's just...
What are you planning on doing now with film?
Well, I have a film right now.
That you're working on, right?
No, it's on Amazon.
Cool.
It's called Made in Mexico, where I play a Mexican cartel guy. So it's like a little outside the box. It's a different character.
Well, you're Colombian.
Yeah, well, but people are like really liking it. They find it funny. It's like
What's
a quirky.
Made in
Mexico.
Made in Mexico?
Mario
Oh my
Lopez
God.
produced it.
Wow.
And, you know, his hair and makeup guy, Rodney Rinks, Tootie Rinks, wrote it. And I met him on, you know, the set of Extra.
Wow, yeah.
And, you know, he's like, I got this movie. I think it'd be great. We did it, and it's turning out pretty good.
How much time are you dedicating to your acting career right now?
Like I don't really want to get typecast. So it's like when I like in this like bigger budget, like studio type stuff. I mean, whenever they hire me, it's usually they see me in one way as like an Italian and like a lot of these simple
You get
characters.
stuck in a role.
Yeah, and I don't want to do that. I'd rather do something else. And good thing I'm like working in the drug treatment industry in this world where I don't have to necessarily depend on my acting to put food on the table and to feed myself. So it's great to be able, because I'm a real artist. Like I want to play different roles. Like, you know what I mean? I look at a lot of times, like I see like a lot of these actors, like they play the same roles over and over. It's like, I look at that as like, almost like you're filling a spot. They have a spot for this type.
Yeah.
So if you fill that spot.
Yeah, you're in a box and we're going to put you in the same box.
Yeah, we're going to put you in this box all the time for this main person to keep going. You push this vehicle and then until his next one, then we'll find other people to fill the spot.
It's like when Adam Sandler does a serious movie, to me it's like so cool, you know, because they play him in the same, he plays the same fucking guy every time, you know.
You can only see it so many times.
And I love Adam Sandler, you know, but like, you know, I loved Uncut Gems, you know, but
Uncut Gems was really good.
man, I love that film. The Safiri brothers or whatever they're called, they did Good Times. They were phenomenal. Those two brothers are great.
He was awesome in that. That you know, I think that film should have did a little bit better with the Academy Awards. Like
It was
did.
phenomenal.
Yeah, I'd like to watch it again.
Yeah. Would you play a drug addict?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, I'm just wondering.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Because maybe I'll bring a level of authenticity to that character.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can't say, oh, that's not the way it is. Are you joking me?
Yeah,
I lived it. Did
of
you
course.
ever do it?
I can't watch certain movies because I'm like, that would never happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, I'm sure people that are fucking in the military can't watch certain movies about the military because it's not authentic.
Yeah, just the way they do this. It's like, that's not the way he would hold his hand. I'm not watching this shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I remember when we did Renaissance, man.
Wow.
That some of these guys, the military top guys, guys that would teach us, they would tell us, I was watching this one movie. As soon as I seen him do that, he said, that's it. It's done. That's not, you know, like just any little thing. Made in Mexico is on Amazon Prime right now. I got a film I did called Sleepyhead, takes place in hell.
Okay.
We're in post-production right now. I did a short film with Jamie Lynn Sigler called I'm on Fire, which is absolutely amazing. We didn't make it to Tribeca this year. I think it was a late submission, but hopefully next year, and we're aiming. It's really, really that good.
Do you ever think about like writing films or producing films?
Producing and directing, yes,
Yeah.
because I would know how to bring it to life the right way where it's going to really mean something and in a really effective way, and I would be able to convey it the way I want. Well, I want to do something, a modern day film with Terrell Hicks and I, who played my love interest in A Bronx Tale. Because Bronx Tale's going to celebrate.
You still talk to her?
Oh, yeah, she's like a really good friend of mine.
Is she an actor still?
Yeah, she's an actress. She's still working.
Wow.
She looks better now than she did back then.
Wow.
Yeah, she's like my really good friend. Like, you know, we have our own lives, but she's still like, we do a lot of signings together. And I want to bring her and I back together because, like I said, Bronx Tale's a 30-year anniversary next year. And I think if we had a film that was coming out right around that time.
It'd be killer.
Yeah, because it's like you're going to get so much free publicity and press.
Of course.
Because of the film. It's like, oh, and they got a film coming out. But I don't necessarily.
Yeah, bro. If you guys did a love story film now where it's like, it could be anything. It could be like, it would be so cool just to see you guys on camera together.
The idea that I have, it's not really a love interest thing. We wouldn't even be the stars. It would be our daughter in the film. Like, we had been estranged. She comes back later on. You know, like back in my life to tell me that our daughter's a drug addict.
Wow.
That's all I really want to talk about.
That would be so cool.
Yeah. Because
that would be
it's
cool.
kind of real because this is what I do now. You know what I mean? Trying to help people on drugs. And now it's like someone, my own immediate family, my own daughter, who's struggling with it. And once again, there would be that level of authenticity.
Wow. That would be really cool. You and her separate, come back, and she has a daughter who's on drugs.
Well, our daughter. We have a daughter.
Wow.
You like that?
Yeah, that's fucking sick.
All right, cool.
That'd be cool.
All right, cool.
Let me know. I would love to be involved in that. Because my dream, because sometimes I watch these
Maybe you could produce it.
Let me know.
Maybe you could produce it and then write it off as an advertising experience. An advertising expense.
Yeah.
You can have billboards for your treatment center everywhere in the background. Say we're doing a scene in the street,
so cool.
and there goes your thing.
I would love that.
You'd say, listen, this is an expense. I'm advertising my company through this, and I'm telling you, you'll be able to write a lot of that off.
Yeah. Because, you know, to me, like, there's only a few drug movies that I've watched that I've really have captured what it's like to be a drug addict. I dream about writing movies and even doing like a documentary on watching someone get clean from day one to, you know, day 365, you know, because a lot of times like, I watch these movies and they're not real. I think you have a real niche in that. Like, if you really put your mind to that, I think
that would be like my Johnny. Yeah, like Johnny Depp does all these quirky characters.
Yeah.
That'd be my. But yeah, how many drug movies can you know? What would you say as far as smoking crack and just like Samuel L. Jackson was awesome in Jungle Fever?
Yeah.
He was awesome. But I got to tell you, man, did you ever see Bad Lieutenant with Harvey Keitel?
I saw it. That was probably the best portrayal.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Did you see like when he was in that hallway? Remember he was smoking? And
Yeah, like, who do they bring on cast?
And just the way he did with his eyes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just the way his eyes, like, you could almost feel that euphoria as he's blowing out that hit. And just the way his eyes, I was like, yo, that shit is so
real.
Right?
I think I watched it when I first got clean, and I couldn't finish it because I think I was just too fresh. I was like,
that movie was serious business.
Crazy.
Yeah. But, yeah, brother. I'd like to say hello to our good friend Marty Tankleff.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Shout out to
Marty. Yeah, shout out to Marty.
He's a
and
solid guy.
every solid as they get. And if you want to talk about commending someone, think about what that guy went through, wrongfully accused all those years.
Dedicated his whole life,
And,
came back and won the lawsuit.
Right,
and
and to be able to come out and to be better and not bitter. Mm-hmm. Because there's no price or no amount of money that's going to give that guy what he lost all those years. You know what I mean?
And his whole aura about him, he's just all smiles. And there's just something about him that feels young. And I think that because he had like such of his youth robbed from him, that there's just something about him that he doesn't feel old.
It's like Arrested Development. He stopped aging as a kid when he first went in, because that's not really fighting for your life in prison and trying to get out. That's not really growing up. That's something different. So it's like,
pause button.
Yeah, he paused his childhood and his, you know what I mean, his adolescence, and then went into this like fight or flight fucking survival mode for all these years. And then he finally got vindicated, you know, and he finally, the whole shit was overturned. So now it's like he's picking up where he left off, you know what I mean? And he still does have that.
And what's so crazy is that he took matters into his own hands, said, I'm going to be an attorney and I'm going to figure this out.
Nobody cares about you like you, brother.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You know? But,
and you spent a lot of time in the law library, too.
Yeah. I mean, you know.
How many hours do you think you spend in the law library?
I used to try to go up there as much as possible because it's like, let me make sense of what I'm being charged with. Let me fully understand what it is and all the intricacies of that particular law. Let me really learn what this is, what I'm up against. So then based on that knowledge, I can give myself and my attorney a better fighting chance, because it's like, hey, I read this and that this is the way the law is to be applied. But you know what? Just so you know, that's impossible and they'll never get us because I did this, not that. Oh, Lillo, I didn't know that. Yeah. So keep that in mind, you know, and it's just like.
The main thing is that, you know, I think that you had the ability to not lose any hope, because that's really inspiring to see that you just were like, when I get out, I'm still going to be young. And as long as you had that fighting chance, you're willing to do it.
Tough road, but, you know.
Hey, well, I appreciate you coming on the show. It's been a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you, brother.
Big fan. You know, I think your story getting out there is only going to help more and more people.
And yours as well, brother.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate that.
You know what I mean? You have a very beautiful story, and I want to
you.
wish you continued success in this
For sure.
thing we call recovery.
We'll link
Just
up
keep it
again.
Absolutely,
All
brother.
right.
Thank
Thanks,
you so
Lillo.
much.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
This show is not affiliated with any specific 12-step program. If you or a loved one is struggling with an addiction, please find a local 12-step meeting. If you believe you may need detox or drug treatment of any kind, please call 833-999-1877 to speak to a specialist. This show is sponsored by United Recovery Project, a state-of-the-art drug and alcohol rehab facility. You can visit our website at unitedrecoveryproject.com.